3 ways to deal with your fear of failure. 3 ways to deal with your fear of failure. That is what we're going to talk about today. But, first, please send your validation my way so that I can inhale it into my soul. Send said validation by subscribing to the YouTube channel. Hit that little notification bell so that you can get brand new videos the second they come out. All other platforms who are watching this video, please like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends. Do what the platform requires for me to get your validation. 3 ways to deal with your fear of failure. Before we get into that, I want to demolish this myth, this misguided notion that you hear in the self-help industry. The only thing you have to fear is fear itself. Fear is false evidence appearing real. No, dude. No. Fear is very, very real. Fear is powerful. Fear is one of the most powerful emotions on the planet. You don't have just fear to fear. You have other things to be afraid of. You could try and fail. All of that rejection and embarrassment and social pressure and lowering of status that you think will result of going for something you really want not only can happen, it most likely will happen. You will experience some of the negative emotions that you have been anticipating, which is why you are afraid of doing the things. Like, those things could happen. And I just don't like the kind of disingenuous idea that if you believe it, simply believing that you can do something will mean that you will achieve it. Just having, delusional confidence guaranteeing you success, it just doesn't make any sense. And if you look at the way that people live their lives, if you look at the fact that most people, they just don't do the things that they want to do with their life out of fear, to kind of downgrade the idea of fear, to kind of not honor how real and palpable it is, it doesn't make any sense. And that's why I always try to come at you where you're currently at in life. If you thought fear was trivial, if you actually believed that kind of fluffy self-help mantra, then you wouldn't be in the position you're in right now. You'd just be off living your life, doing those amazing things that you're scared to do. But no, that fear is very real. One of my favorite books, The War of Art, it talks about fear in a way that gives honor to what that fear is. He calls it the resistance, an evil, insidious force permeating the souls of all human beings, and this fear that kind of wafts through the air and enters every crack and crevice of the world. This palpable evil force that keeps people from achieving their dreams. That's what fear is. Fear is no joke. Fear keeps most people on the sidelines. And I think one of the first steps is to quit discarding your fear. So that's step number 1. Don't discard your fear. Not only don't discard it, but just accept that you are always going to be afraid. See, what I think most people get into, they get caught into the trap of thinking that you're going to somehow conjure up enough positive emotions, enough confidence from thin air before you start doing something. You think that you're somehow going to be able to rid yourself of the feelings of fear before you step into the arena and actually get it done. And that's not true. You're going to be afraid. So just accept the fact that you're going to be afraid, and then be afraid while you're doing it. I've done a lot of things where I was very afraid while I was doing it. One time, so before I gave a TEDx talk, there was a pitch night for the TEDx talk. And essentially what the pitch night was, it was at a restaurant. It was a small venue. There was like 50 people there. And there was 24 different speakers. And you came up there and everyone had 3 minutes to pitch your idea. So this is where I pitched the idea for the talk itself, and I was petrified. Maybe I'll even find the link to that video, because they did put it up on YouTube, and put it in the description of this video. I was almost like visibly shaking. Actually, a couple people came up to me afterwards, and they talked to me about how my nervousness was almost a little bit endearing, because the idea that I pitched was overcoming imposter syndrome. And the TEDx talk I gave was about imposter syndrome, about feeling like a fraud, about being nervous and doing it anyway. And when I got up on stage and talked in front of 1,000 people, did I settle into a groove eventually? Yes. But I was scared out of my bleeping mind. It was terrifying. I'm sitting backstage and I'm just waiting to go on. I'm not even listening to the speaker who is currently on stage because I can't even focus on anything other than the sound of my heart thumping out of my chest. Palpable fear. I had two choices. I was either going to get on stage and be afraid and give the talk, or I was going to tuck my tail in between my legs and run away and not give the talk, right? So at that point, I'd basically put myself into a position where I pretty much had to do it, or else I was going to really, really embarrass myself, right? So I went ahead and gave the talk, and my heart was thumping out of my chest, and like even after I got off the stage, my heart was still thumping out of my chest. And they had set up a little area for me to do a book signing. People came up to me and like I sold copies of my books and I signed them and I was having conversations with people and it was awesome and lovely. But the adrenaline was still so high that I was still basically like having heart palpitations almost after the speech. Was like several minutes after giving the speech, right? But then I also understood that I was feeling something that is on a very similar frequency of fear, and that's I'm not going to edit that out. It was excitement. I felt pure excitement. After going through that wall of fear, when you come out, you feel like a demigod. You just feel like this super powerful human being. Like any time that you feel the fear and do it anyway, there is no stronger confidence booster than that. And I continue to put myself in situations. I get afraid all the time. I have a new book coming out. It's coming out in less than a week now. I spent a year working on it. I'm afraid the thing is going to flop. I'm afraid that I'll never quite reach the level of skill as an author that I want. I'll never sell enough books that no matter what I do, I'll never reach that pinnacle. I'm always afraid that my writing is not good enough, that my videos aren't good enough. On the one hand, I'm confident, but I also feel fear and I don't shy away from it. In fact, lesson number two to deal with your fear, embrace your fear. If you have a fear of failure, embrace it. Instead of thinking about fear as a signal for you not to go, you gotta use it. Anytime you feel afraid, just go. And that's way easier said than done. Way easier said than done. And there are going to be many times where you kind of get yourself geeked up to do something. You're just on the cusp of it, but then like you don't do it, right? We all go through that in various instances where we get all fired up that we're going to do something, but then that fear kicks in and we don't actually get it done. But if you can figure out a way, which I always say in my videos, nothing I can say can really force you into action. I'm just giving you angles and guidelines to kind of look at everything. You want to switch that signal in your brain to whenever you're scared, you go act. And if you're able to do it successfully kind of a few times, the first initial times are going to be the very most difficult times because you don't have any reference experiences of doing that. So I always talk about reference experiences, feedback loops, creating a positive upward spiral. And if you are successful at turning that signal in your mind to fear equating to action, you do it a couple times and you kind of rewire your mind to equate feelings of fear with positive action. So you embrace it. You don't run away from your fear. You accept that you're going to be afraid, but then you start to look at fear in a more positive light, a more embracing type of light. You want to be afraid. You want to be in a situation. You have to start wanting fear in your life. See, what happens with basically every emotion that we don't want to feel? We repress our emotions. Instead of lashing out and really getting angry at someone, you repress your anger towards them. Instead of really feeling afraid, you repress your fear. Instead of really mourning, you repress your sadness. Instead of fully experiencing your anxiety, you repress your anxiety. So all we do is continue to repress emotions, but then when you actually just feel the feeling, embrace the feeling, let it bubble up, you'll feel that feeling and then it'll pass. You'll move into something different. So I embrace my fear. I put myself in positions to be afraid. I've booked multiple flights to different areas across the country where I'm traveling alone, completely alone. I've gone to conferences where I didn't know anyone, traveling completely alone. I'm giving a speech in Montreal in April. I haven't given a really speech in front of a big crowd since I gave that TEDx talk a couple years ago, 3-4 years ago now. So I'm just embracing it. I'm like, you know what? I don't want to feel comfortable anymore. So it's kind of like in the movie Avengers where the Hulk says his secret to maintaining composure is always being angry. So if he were to try to repress his anger, the Hulk would come out involuntarily and he would just start rampaging cities and have no control over his impulses. But since he learned how to actually just feel the emotion, the Hulk doesn't come out. So that's the way that I use my, emotions now. I come across as confident, but that's just because I don't try to push my fear down anymore. I'm always afraid. Therefore, I'm confident and I'm courageous because I'm allowing, that's one of the most courageous things you can do is to allow your real feelings to bubble up to the surface. Now for tip number 3. Tip number 3 just talks about the way that you should look at life. I've written articles about this. I've talked about this before. The idea of kind of reframing the way that you're going through life. People just take life way too seriously. You're making everything kind of make or break. You want to find your perfect passion. You want to find the perfect job. You want to make money, start a business. All these big goals and dreams. You're taking it too seriously. Just kind of take the attitude that, even look at like my body language. Like you're just trying things out. You're just lighthearted, like, all right, screw it, man. Like, we're going to do it. Let's see what happens. I'm not trying to get 100,000 YouTube subscribers off the bat. I started my channel by just opening up my laptop, shooting a webcam, no script, just talking a little, just seeing what happens. And then over time, things get a little bit better. I get better camera equipment. I'm learning a little bit about video SEO. I'm studying it up on YouTube. But had I made this big thing about, I have to get 100,000 subscribers. I have to be the next Casey Neistat or else this is going to be a failure. Bad dichotomy. You don't want to create the dichotomy that either you're extremely successful or you're a failure. You're just trying things out. You're just creating more of an experimental mindset. You want to have that mindset that you're kind of just a mad scientist. You don't know exactly what's going to work, so you're just trying things out. You just kind of take that lighthearted attitude towards it, and you just don't look. Failure is a label. Words are just labels. If you really think about what a word is, it's just a label that you use to place context and meaning on something. The only person who can decide whether or not you're a failure, it's you. I could look at your life and list off what I believe your successes and failures are, but that has no bearing on you. There's no objective reality on what's a failure and what is success. Everything is subject to interpretation. So that's why you need to figure out how to change your interpretations. Like if you try something and it doesn't necessarily work out your way, that could be seen as a failure, or that could be seen as a stepping stone. It could be seen as you having the balls or lady parts, confidence to go out and try something. Most people are afraid. Most people don't have the heart to try anything. So you're already in the top 5% of human beings for even having the audacity to try anything outside of this monotonous hamster wheel that people live in. You're already courageous just for taking the first step. Most people just bury their emotions, bury their dreams, repress it all, and you can see it manifested in that kind of stone, deadpan face that people have. That's just repressed emotions. So just quit being so serious. Why so serious? You are but an infinitesimal piece in the universe. You are already dead. Time has already forgotten about you. Why do you care so much? Why is this all such a big deal? And I'm not just asking that for you. I'm asking that for myself too. Sometimes I get caught up in my head and I'm like, dude, why do you care so much? Like, it's not really that big of a deal. So what? What if you sell 0 copies of your book? Are you going to die? No. Everything is within my power, to my interpretation. And that doesn't necessarily help 100% of the time. You know your perception is under your own control, but it still feels like you're trapped within your own perception. I get that. But over time, you start to realize how much of your own reality is painted by your imagination, and you just continue to work on it. And you never necessarily get amazingly great at it. You just get good enough to achieve the things you want to achieve in your life. Okay! You 2.0 is the name of my book. I have another book coming out on January 14th. You can check it out in the description below. Either pre-order it or order it live if you're watching this video post January 14th. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so that you can get brand new videos the moment they come out. All other platforms, please love and share my content with your friends. Peace and blessings. I will see you on the next video.